Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show. I am joined by my good men, Kyle and Mike. What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Yo, what up?
So glad to have you guys here once again. So tonight we're going to be talking about the latest release from an artist that you might not think we would actually do it on, but tonight we're going to be talking about Simple Minds' most recent album, Direction of the Heart. Not erection, ladies and gentlemen, just direction. It was bound to happen. It was clearly Mike's idea right there. But I will actually go first tonight talking about this album because I actually, outside of Don't You Forget About Me, this is a pretty good band that I've gotten into the past probably year or so. I did get for this. So when they were announcing that they're going to do another album coming out later this year, and it came out back in October. I was like, okay, you have my attention. I really enjoyed Walk Between Worlds from 2018. It was actually a really unique take. I felt like it was a modern take on the 80s new wave and synth. And to me, this album doubled down on that a little bit. And there were reviews coming out saying it was their best album in 30 years. So, and obviously everyone can think of them from the Breakfast Club, from Don't You Forget About Me, Alive and Kicking, all the things she said, a couple of the other 80s hits that they're known for. But outside of that, no one in the United States, at least as far as I could tell, pays attention to them outside of certain people like myself, which is kind of annoying, but that's okay. That's why we're here to talk about it with Mike and Kyle, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're here. That's why they're here too. Woohoo! I don't know, whatever. But going into this Simple Minds album, a lot of people forget that they're still a band. A lot of people forget that they're still going. And and when I said, hey, why don't we give this one a shot? They're like, okay, sure, let's give it a shot. So, but what I heard was I was thoroughly entertained. I was very and truthfully impressed by a lot of the different sounds that Simple Minds can still come up with on a different chord progressions, different melodies. As a band, they still kind of have it, in my opinion. As a new wave band from the 80s who's still doing it to this day, I thought this was a pretty good album overall. But I'm curious to see what Mike and Kyle have to say. Who would like to go first, Mike or Kyle?
Mike, you want to take this?
Mike, what do you got?
Kyle. I'm currently.
I'll take it.
All right, Kyle.
All right, I'll take it. Yeah. So, this is news to me that this is their 18th studio album.
Yep,
that's nuts. I only knew 2 songs from them prior to this. I get maybe outside the U.S. they were a bigger band for many years. I mean, obviously they're still going since the 80s. It's a very, very much doubled down, like you said, on the old 80s synth pop, like electro pop styles, new wave. I'm not a fan of that style. I'm just going to be very forthright with that. Outside of a couple hits, I always found that style to be rather annoying, to be honest. The production on it is great. The production on it actually surprised me. It sounds phenomenal from like a sonic standpoint. The guitars for me are the biggest positive that this has going for it. I actually thought they were extremely well done. Only 2 original members are the vocalist and the guitarist. I guess they work well together. Other than that, this album didn't really do it for me. I'll get into specifics when I get into the track list. It's if you like 80s new wave and electro pop, you might enjoy this. For me, it was a bit of a letdown going into it.
Okay. And Mike, what about you?
I'm kind of sitting somewhere with Kyle on this one. It definitely is. My previous knowledge of the band is not very good. Like, I personally didn't really even know the band by name, and it's kind of like Kyle was saying, a genre that I've kind of only known a couple of different songs from. Excuse me, by the way, I'm hiccuping, so if it seems like I'm pausing a lot or making weird noise, you know what's going on. I definitely found myself feeling like they were saying double down on a certain type of sound, and there wasn't enough twists and turns in this album that I needed structurally, that my brain was pleading for. to kind of maintain that kind of like level of momentum. It just seemed like they kind of were really bringing home that they just kind of are still a band from the 80s that are like, you know, has that kind of sound, but like can incorporate some you know, elements of rock and elements of electronics and, you know, this and that, that just kind of would keep their fan base happy, and they didn't take too many risks here. So yeah, I mean, that's my initial feeling on it. On like I was like you saying, I will get into more, you know, emphasis on, you know, what parts of it track, you know, listing wise, that I felt like it had some good moments and bad moments.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Let's jump over to the bio and the track listing and stuff like that for a second. I'll read off the track listing, shall we? So the first track is Vision Thing, First You Jump, Human Traffic, Who Killed Truth? Question mark. Solstice Kiss, Active Love, Natural Planet Zero, and The Walls Competition. And Kyle and I pointed that before we started our stream tonight, that the title track Direction of the Heart is actually on one of the deluxe edition bonus tracks, which is actually pretty interesting. That's track number 10, and then Wonder Times was track number 11. So first things first, really quick, I just want to say the fact that the title track is on the deluxe edition, it was a very weird thing, if you will. Like normally, like it'd be like the first song in, or like the third song in, or one of like, typically you would think that a title track would be in the album itself, like the standard regular edition of the album, if you get on vinyl or CD or whatever. But the fact that it's on Spotify, when we were just listening to it, we just went through all 11 songs, and I didn't even realize this until Kyle just pointed out, looking at the Wikipedia page here of the digital deluxe edition track. The title track is one of the bonus tracks, which is pretty, you know, interesting. I just thought it was that's something that jumped out to me after you said that. So I thought that was pretty
kind of a misdirection, if you will. You know, anybody know?
It was a
right,
misdirection of the mind. How about that?
I'll be over here if you need me this year.
Mike, I thought it was funny. Don't worry.
All right, good. Yeah, good.
Yes, it was gloriously hysterical. Would anyone like to go first for track listing, or do you want me to go first?
Go first.
Okay. Just standout tracks for me. Just check. I'm spreading my enjoyment here, I guess you could say. I will say this. So there are some high points, there are some low points, as Mike pointed out, but I would say the standout tracks for me personally, after listening to this album over the past week or so, would have to be obviously no brainer for all of you kids keeping track of them. The title track for me, Direction of the Heart, is definitely one for me personally. Yeah, you knew it was coming, ladies and gentlemen. You knew it was coming. But outside of the title track, for some reason, like the first 2 or 3 songs just really stuck out to me, like Vision Thing, First You Jump, and Human Traffic. I'm not sure what it was, but those actually, let's go to the first 4. So the first half of the album really stuck out to me as like, just, you know, lyrically, it definitely sounded very melodic for the most part, and also the sounds, like again, it might not be it might not be even my style or Kyle's style or Mike's style, but just the fact that they're still doing like that new wave 80s sound, to me, but with modern production on it, it sounds pretty cool if that's your thing. I mean, it might not be your thing, it might be your best friend's thing, and that's okay. But I mean, I gotta say, for me though, like I said, Vision Thing, First You Jump, Human Traffic, really just the first 4, and then the rest of the album kind of like, I was like, all right, is it over yet? Just saying. And I just want to say, Planet Zero, I felt like I was listening to Shinedown's record that we talked about earlier this year. Remember that guy with the Planet Zero? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, but Shinedown did it way better.
Of course they did, absolutely, no doubt about it. I'm just saying, because when we got to the second half of the album, it started to dip down a little bit more and more as time progressed throughout the album, because I would say it's mostly heavily loaded on the front, but that's nothing to take away from the last 4 or 5 songs of the album. I mean, they held up, but not as much as the first ones for me personally. So the first 4 tracks for me: Vision Thing, First You Jump, Human Traffic, and Who Killed Truth? ? And the title track, of course. Who would like to share their tracks next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this a bit differently than I normally do. Um, I'm gonna take this track by track. I'm just gonna go through and give a couple thoughts on each one.
Okay.
Vision thing. When the vocals kicked in, I actually started laughing. I don't know what it was about this song, specifically the verses of this. First thing I thought, I was like, "This is this serious?" I was like, beyond that, cool guitars. The synths were cool. It's too long. It's just the same thing over and over. First, you jump major U2 vibes on that one. As someone that's not the biggest U2 fan, didn't go over well for me. Pretty boring song. Didn't really go anywhere. Human Traffic was the one track on this album that I actually liked.
Oh.
It's not, I wouldn't put it as a great song, but it's a fun electro pop song. I actually enjoyed it. Who Killed Truth sounds like a parody song that would have been on South Park. Sounds like a song that would have been on a South Park episode, like some kind of political parody. Also made me laugh. Solstice Kiss, same thing. A lot of nothing happening. Act of Love, it's not bad. Mid track. Natural, again, pretty boring. Had some cool guitar work on it. Planet Zero, very boring. Way too long again. And Walls Came Down. This one was actually interesting to me. This one sounded a lot like, again, another one with a lot of like U2 sounds on here, U2 influence. Also noticed in certain parts had kind of like a Springsteen vibe going on this one. I wish it wasn't as repetitive as it is. That's the only thing that really dragged it down for me. And then the bonus tracks are two of my least favorite from the record. I see why they were bonus tracks. Specifically, Wonder Times is one of the worst songs and most boring tracks I've heard in a very long time. I actually think that the record was brought down even more by including those and extending the time by another 10 minutes. My biggest issue, having said that about all the songs, my biggest issue with all of them is a vast majority of them go on for about a minute longer than they need to, just doing the same thing. I think it was Mike that said it when he was talking initially. There's not a lot of variation here. Most songs do sound very similar to each other and just kind of follow the same pattern and have the same sound, which again, production wise, sonically, it's very well done. Whoever produced this, I think it was partially self-produced at least. They did a phenomenal job with that production end of it. Can't say enough good things about that. I really enjoyed that. Other than that, though, it just comes off to me as like so one note and boring that I actually found myself being like, all right, let's speed this up. Like I'm kind of done with it, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I was hoping to go into this and find an artist that, maybe it slid under my radar that I would have really enjoyed. Maybe some of their other work I'd like better. But to me, it just kind of seemed off. I don't know. I can't speak for their previous work. So this is me going in blind on this record.
Yeah.
Reviews seem to be very positive. But overall, for me, didn't hit the mark. Again, I don't like the new wave sound. I very much hand it to him. Excellent job for sticking to your guns and, going on with that sound when really no one else is doing it. Instead of, I appreciate that they didn't go the route of someone like, let's use an example that we've talked about on here before, Def Leppard. They didn't go the way of, well, we got to fit the trends, so let's do this. They're still doing their thing. Very noble. I appreciate it, but really, Human Traffic was the only track that I took away from this one. So with that, Mike, I'm gonna throw it to you.
Dude, all right. We need to officially mark the time and the date that Kyle and I are almost perfectly in sync. I know this is shocking. I mean, folks, like I can't believe it. Like, I mean, there's a couple unalignment, disalignment, however you want to put it, of our thoughts here, but I'm speechless. I can't believe we're on the same page here. The new wave sound that they're kind of re-emphasizing with their kind of modern album with that same kind of style. Like, I feel like it goes parallel with some of the electronic music that kids are into today. So I feel like almost kids would think it's cool to be to listen to a band like this because it's not like archaic enough that it's seen as like, oh, it's uncool, it's stupid, it's old, but like it's starting to come back again, like those, like the weekend, you know what I mean, like this with these kinds of like
even the
beats in the
Stranger
background.
Things revival of
Yeah,
80s
Stranger
culture.
Things. I mean, listen to freaking Taylor Swift's album with all these,
Mhm.
these like mid-tempo kind of like electronic beats could really like they could find an audience in today's generation that where they don't have to like Kyle was saying, do a Def Leppard thing and sound like a bunch of older guys trying too hard to be modern. They could just stay with the way they are, and it's kind of having a revival. So nothing in this album really reaches out and grabs me with its melodies and its catchiness, and I think that's an area where it suffers from like they present you with a melody and a catchy chorus or a catchy hook, and it's catchy, but it's catchy in a way that's like it doesn't really like captivate you. It really
It's kind of
doesn't.
aggravating.
Yeah, right. And it's like, this is catchy, and I'm gonna repeat over and over again, like vision thing and the vision thing and then the vision thing, and it's like, okay, you presented that, it's not that good though, and like you're doubling down on how this is gonna be something you're gonna repeat multiple times, and that's another major issue with the album is its repetitiveness. And I found myself feeling the need for a change up, a twist, a turn, something that's going to challenge my brain a little bit. And it kind of was like, no, this is what you're going to get from point A, and this is what you're going to get to point B. And it's like, like this is what we got for you. So for me, it's like a background sound album. It's almost exactly what JT was saying about the previous album, Uriah Heep's album. I was listening to it in the background one day, and I actually felt it worked better than when I actively waited for the songs to bring me something new. Like if I stopped listening to them directly and I was just listening in the background, the beat was keeping me going. It was kind of a nice little plodding, album. But as I began to like focus in on it, then I began to go, all right, what's next? Is this it? Like, okay, like Kyle was saying, is okay, this could have ended a couple minutes ago. Like, I need something else. And and that brings me to my next point. The vocals were inconsistent, shaky at times.
Mhm.
They worked with the mood, but they sounded just kind of almost parodying David Bowie, or maybe like Maneuvers in the Dark, like kind of like at times they brought an element and a mood, but they came off a little inconsistent and shaky. And, overall, just, lack of change of pace, lack of change of structure, missed opportunities on capitalizing on some of the melodies they had in the background. Like I felt a guitar was doing a cool melody, but it seemed there, but not really at the heart of the song. It was just kind of played gently in the background, and then it just like ceases, and then it plays again. And it's like, no, that melody needs to come forward and be more of a driving beat to the song. So, come to the songs that I really enjoyed. And this is the problem with this album is I don't know if it's front loaded or if it wears its welcome out early and leaves you not caring at the end. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of an album. Kids don't understand an album. An album is an absolute work of art because you need an audience to stay interested for 12 songs straight. No, not, hey, I'm gonna mix in on my playlist. I'm gonna mix their best song and then mix it in with 12 other songs. No. You need to captivate an audience for 12 straight songs. You need to be able to keep them interested for 12 straight songs. You need to also prove that you're not going to reuse melodies, reuse drum beats, reuse the same thing in an entire album. If you've ever listened to certain albums and you've gone, this song sounds like that song, or that song sounds like this song, or it's the same vocal melody, but they changed it up a little bit, which is a common thing in today's music because songwriters, when they're writing an album, tend to all kind of lump the thoughts they were having into one big idea, and they failed to kind of bring a bunch of different ideas from different points together and all have an identity. It begins to sound all like one thing, and that's the biggest challenge of an artist, to have an entire album be good. And I feel like albums are going away, to be honest with you. Like we talked about this previously, starting to be like, I released this song a month later, and yada yada. Songs I've written at different times are now becoming part of an album that's written today. I wrote this months ago, years ago, whatever. Like it's an interesting thing. But yeah, so just to get to the tracks, Vision Thing was okay. Like I was saying, it starts off good, first you jump, same thing, cool vibe to it, but does it have what I need in a song to change up and just plods ahead? It just kind of creates a cool vibe. Human Traffic was actually the first song I felt that actually sounded differently, like it actually had some energy to it. And I was like, oh, like they're showing another side of their sound here. It doesn't sound like the first ones. Cool. And then Who Killed Truth, as much as I find the lyrics and that part of ridiculous, I did like some of the melodies, and but the repetition, once again, coming back to the repetition, it just kind of wears its welcome out. And from that point forward, like JT was saying, it wears its welcome out. Solstice Kiss, where it's just boring. It's kind of like plodding along. Planet Zero, I dislike this song on many levels. Vocally, it's a mess, and it's actually one of my least favorite songs of the album. And then like I said, the rest of them were just kind of there, repetitive. Wonder Times is another low point of the album for me. So overall, it takes a real songwriter the challenge to write an entire album without overusing the same things they've been doing previously, without kind of seeming like they're resting on their laurels or resting on the things that make them the sound what it is, without kind of showing some uniqueness to freshen it up, change the pace, change the pattern, break the sound a little bit, stop just plodding ahead and maybe go into a part that kind of speeds up a little bit or do something different. It needed that, and it just didn't want to do that. And I guess it is what it is, for this type of genre.
Yeah, and you know what, I like what you said, that you're not sure if the album, if you would say it's front loaded or if it just wore out its welcome. I would venture to say the later of those is more accurate here, because I'm just looking at the ratings I gave each song. They pretty much, with the exception of a couple, all got around the same score throughout, the entirety of the record. And I think, because I agreed, I felt like towards the end, I was like, oh, come on, let's get this done now. But I think that's just because it, like you said, it just sounds the same. It doesn't change anything. Like there's no, like you don't get to any point in the record where it's like, oh, here's the fast song, or here's like the slow ballad. It's just, here's your mid-tempo electro pop 80s new wave song for 11 tracks in a row. There was no there was no like change up anywhere, other than, like you said, Human Traffic was the one song that's like, okay, this is different. And I dug that. I thought that sounded really good.
Yeah,
I just want to say I know you, and I hear what you guys are saying completely, and I agree with a lot of the points you're saying. And I will say this too: their previous album, Walk Between Worlds, there's like a different pace. It's a lot of different tracks on there. So if you want to, not just you guys, but to our listeners as well, if you want to get to know a different album by them, to see where they came from going into this one, I mean, it was 2018, I think it was, but it was called Walk Between Worlds, and there was so many different types of pacing, different like styles and stuff. It was coming up. I should have said this on the top of the show, but coming into this record, it was like, I was excited because I heard Walk Between Worlds, and I was like, this is actually really good. Like Magic, this is like the song of the track listing up there is like Magic, Summer. These are actually really good songs that are not like just like, oh, they're here and then they're gone, and then they, Magic. It's funny, I heard the song Magic in my head for Simple Minds before I even listened to the album, like today again for another time. I was like, I heard that melody in my head. I was like, wow, that's so weird. And then I realized that's because that album, the one prior to this, it's called Walk Between Worlds. That one is a lot different. And if you guys are open to it, you could talk about it. You could check it on your own time, of course. But it's really a solid. It's got different styles on it overall. Like I believe it's 12 songs as well. But I do know that it is. It was very different from this one. This one was very, like you guys said, it was very repetitive. It was very much what do you call it? It was a lot of the same sounds going on for the most part, except for the one song. But I just want to let you guys know that this one, Walk Between, I just want to show you one for this, because I was flipping out when this first came out. I actually didn't even listen to it. I just liked the album cover. That was just me. I was like, oh, this album looks like so cool.
I was actually just thinking, wow, that's a better album cover than this one.
Yeah, if those you don't know, it's a guy like a TV screen that's like in his hands, and it's really cool. Look up Walk Between Worlds. But the track listing, like really quick, I know we're going up in the tangent for a sec. The songs on this one were just so different from Direction of the Heart, and I was like, whereas the Direction of the Heart was more like the same stuff over and over again for the most part. I mean, there was some differences here and there, of course, but this one, if you guys
hold on, JT, hold on.
What am I missing?
What's going on? Direction of the Heart was a B-side to this record. What's going on with that? So
wait a second.
The track from this album
oh my
wasn't
God.
even from this album.
Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even realize that until now. Sorry about that.
Wow.
So it looks like they took that song and then they made other songs.
They may have re-recorded that song.
Regurgitated.
Maybe, I don't know. Regurgitated. But that's what I mean. This album with Walk Between Worlds was just a different sound. Complete. I mean, it still was 80s like style, 80s synth in a modern production, but the songs were just different. And I mean, that's a conversation for another time. But I just want to shed some light on that for a second, because I know that you guys were gonna. I wasn't sure you guys would even talk about this one, because I was like, how what are they gonna say about this one? You know what I mean? And
yeah,
but sure, but if you have a chance to listen to Walk Between Worlds, listen to that one too. It might change your tune a little bit, because coming off knowing that this one came off of that one, and it was a B-side. I didn't realize it was a B-side until you said that. So there you go. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But if bottom line, Simple Minds is still a band. They're still going out there like crazy. So
and it's I had no previous experience with this band. I mean, besides the song that I knew of, and I'm just like, and it's from, what Breakfast Club or whatever. And, like, I know a lot of people's experience with them is like, oh, they're one-hit wonders. And, like, obviously they've had a career that goes beyond that. And, like it's had its popularity in the market that it exists in, and obviously it's not like a chart topper, like a megalith of freaking music or something, but like it definitely has a place and a market, and I would be interested to hear something else that they did that brought some other things to the table, and it would definitely be interesting. And it's amazing how many bands this happens with, where you hear this album on this date and you think this is all the band is, and then someone else is like, no, the band is this and this and this, but you just gotta be able to hear it all, and there's so much music to hear. It's just almost an undertaking that could take a lifetime to hear a progression of a band from this point to this point. So in a lot of ways, it just boggles my mind how some of these bands end up pigeonholing themselves into a certain kind of sound, rather than taking the lessons they've learned along the way and continuing that along this album. It's like somehow they find themselves doing the thing that they think maybe people want to hear the most, rather than what is best for them to listeners who don't know their music. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's kind of interesting.
I also want to add, JT, can you give me screen sharing ability for a minute?
Sure, give me one.
So I just want to point out that this is 2 records in a row, of which they ripped off the emo / metalcore community album covers. And I'm just going to pull up 2 examples of that.
Go ahead. I think whenever you're ready, go ahead.
All right. So this record, the minute I saw the album cover, and I showed you guys this one before stream, it's just the Escape the Fate album cover from the year prior to it. It's just missing one of the parts of the gas mask. The other one, the record you just pulled up, the album cover is eerily similar to Vulnerable by The Used from 2012.
Oh my God, you're right.
2 in a row. So I don't know, maybe they're big emo fans, But
Jim Kerr's a big emo
just wanted
fan.
to point that out.
Yeah,
Who
that's
knows?
crazy
That's
though.
2
I
in a
didn't
row.
realize
So I
that.
might have to go and inspect the rest of their covers.
And they're not like on the same record label, I don't think.
I doubt it. I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
You have to look at. I mean, we could talk about them all day. It's just like, but I mean, it's just like looking at them. Looking, I didn't realize that the Walk Between Worlds one I didn't see, but the one before with the gas mask, I was like, that's a total ripoff. But I was like, any other thoughts, concluding thoughts for Simple Minds Walk Between Worlds? Direction of the Heart, anyone, or do you want me to go first? You guys have any last minute thoughts, or
JT, take it first with your rating.
all right, that's of course, duh. Every week I forget to do the rating. So coming off of Walk Between Worlds, which I recommend to the both of you check it out. It's a very different sounding, beat, different pace, more drums here and there, stuff like that. Coming off of that to go to this one, that one I was starstruck by. That was like a wow, out of left field. That was a great album. But coming on to this one, truthfully, Direction of the Heart. I mean, there were some parts that the first couple tracks I really enjoyed, but then the second half of the album kind of like slowly just petered off a little bit outside of the title track, Direction of the Heart. But if you were asking me my rating overall, I mean, when I go back to a couple of these songs, maybe I would probably go back to Human Traffic and Vision Thing, and maybe the title track, believe it or not. And that's really it, though. Outside of that, those are the songs I would go back to the most. But my rating, though, would have to stand at a 3.65 out of 5, truthfully. It was because it was not Walk Between Worlds. Walk Between Worlds just kind of like took me by storm. I was like, oh my God, what is this? I was like, whatever. You got, like I said, check it out. But this one was a bit of a step in a different direction, which I mean, it ultimately, like, what I found myself at some points like, okay, we're on this track again. I'm getting bored at some points a little bit, truthfully. I understand that I was really excited about it when it first came out, but but listening to it over and over again, I was like, you know what, maybe some of the tracks are not, don't hold up as much as I thought they would. But and plus, given that the title track was just a B-side from the previous album, I would say that this is a 3.65 out of 5. Kyle, what is your rating for Direction of the Heart?
So, like I said, this record has a lot of songs that go on way too long. Even with that said, the songs are only, at most, I think the longest one's about 5 minutes. So for that to be an issue is a pretty big red flag. Human Traffic, like I said, is the only one I'm really taking out of it. And even then, I probably won't revisit it very often. Found it very boring. The guitars are the best aspect, but they'll do something cool in the beginning of the song and then get buried. With all that said, they also do something that I hate that has become a trend in recent years, where they say it's a deluxe edition of the record, but it's essentially just the standard edition. Like, anywhere you look right now, what you find is the version of it with all 11 tracks. So I don't understand that. So my rating for this record with all 11 tracks, so I guess the deluxe edition, is a 1.75 out of 5. I really didn't enjoy this. I think it's the lowest score I've given any album on this channel. Without those 2 tracks, if we were to take those 2 away, it could bump up to a light 2. But since the main version of the record is the one with all 11, I gotta give it 1.75.
Mike, is there
I'm
any
not
hope?
the villain. Woo! I'm not the villain, Mike. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And this is my argument for a rating higher than Kyle's, but not necessarily. Okay, it's very strange. This album serves a purpose as a background sounding album. When I would listen to it in a passive way versus a direct way, like it would change my feeling towards it, weirdly enough. Like if I listened and it like served that purpose in such a way that I felt like, okay, like as I listened to it more, when I would kind of listen to it indirectly, it was like, oh, okay, like it's if I were driving in a car and I were like going on a trip somewhere and I weren't really wanting to listen to something that has too much change of pace, stuff I have to focus on. I didn't want to, you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's something, it serves a different purpose than I think it wants to serve. And I think that's kind of interesting to me because I feel like all music serves each purpose that it can serve. You know, this one's for working out, this one's for quiet down kind of like meditation, this one's for a car trip, this one's for, you know, like all different serving different purposes, different times of the day, different activities. So for me, I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. It's dead middle of the road. Nothing is horrible, but nothing is great. I'm not repulsed by it, but in the same way, I'm left wanting more. It's just a straight up 5 out of 5, you know, like, or 5 out of 5, 5 out of 10, 2.5 out of 5. Kind of like, it's just, it has elements to it that are cool and have a vibe to it, as the kids are saying these days. But like, you know, basically the old man has to sound old.
Does it pass
But
the
anyway,
vibe check?
yeah, yo, vibe, bro. Yeah, like, but it just really is a 5, you know, a 2.5 out of 5, a 5 out of 10 for me. And you know, like I actually could see myself, if I were to rate this on a direct listen, like something that I'm actively like paying attention to. Yeah, I definitely would see where Kyle's at and definitely would be right there with him. And I think I had to tell myself, okay, like I'm going to change my mindset for this album because it kind of delivers a different environmental quality. Call it an environmental quality that I feel like I'm judging it on a different scale. But if we put these up against some of my more active listened albums, yeah, absolutely 1.5. You know, 1 out of 5 for sure. You know, but I think I enjoyed it as like a drive along, you know, in passive listening album, which is very strange. But you know, it has its ability to shine there versus the other albums that I've enjoyed.
Wow. So it literally went 3, 2, 1. How about that?
Hey, blast off.
There we go. 3, 2, 1, blast off.
Yeah.
But that's gonna do it for us. There's our rating. Hopefully you enjoyed this, what you heard here and what you saw here tonight. Please sound off in the comment section below. Share your thoughts on this album if you liked it. Check out Walk Between Worlds too. It's a very different album overall. Coming into this one, it was very strange, whatever. But like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you gotta do, and hit the bell as well. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on podcast form wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Stay safe, take care, and be awesome.